all of a sudden the patterns are starting to change and they're moving around and around, and as the time was progressing, even after the lecture was over, I walked back to the student union to try and study and try to regroup and figure out what the heck was going on. And all of a sudden it just seemed like my brain was trying to interpret all of these happenings, and things such as like it would be like my cursive writing, having memories of my cursive writing like scrolling past me, or there would also be these interesting kinds of color patterns and forming into different shapes, and almost trying to make things into 3D and things like that, and it was pulsating and making some really interesting patterns. And the first thing that was entered my mind was like, well, who put, acid in my Coke? I was just wondering what the heck was going on here, and it just wouldn't go away, and it was just crazy, and it kept.
Well, I guess if you want to picture, if you will, say if you're looking at me now, it would of course be very blurry, especially in the center. On the sides, if you will, the peripheral end of the vision is affected. It's almost like an ellipse, if you can picture that. And of course the colors that occur throughout the whole visual field, all the way through. It's not as seen to be intense around this band, what I call a band of vision, in that sort of a pattern. It's like, if I say, a very thin line, which from occasion I can use it, and I say can use it reluctantly in a sense, because since it is a retinal degenerative condition, that it's not stable, so I can't always rely on that. When I was 10 years old, I started having night vision problems, and then that's when my ophthalmologist told me that it was retinitis pigmentosa, and every time I would go, as a matter of fact, from subsequent years, he would just say, no change, no warning that it would progress at all. Yeah, I just wasn't too happy at that time, because I was very confused as to what was happening. But then there was another part of me that knew that something was going on visually because of the history we have with this disability in the family. My brother has it, and so he went through a lot of the changes I went through, but a lot younger.
All of a sudden, I see three colors. It's like the Trinitron logo from Sony, it was blue, red, and green, and it was interesting, and I thought it was part of the astronomy show, and I thought, well, why would that be it? Because he's talking about something else altogether, nothing about like aurora borealises or anything that would constitute colors or anything like that. And I was just like staring at this for a long time and wondering, what the heck is this? They're like three patches on top of each other, blue, red, and green. And then
yeah, there were times when I would be okay, and other times I wouldn't be so okay. And I guess it was hard for me to explain why a person who was an art student in high school would have a visual disability, although it was made known to me later on that Monet, for example, had a visual disability, and there were other artists in our time who also had disabilities as well. Looking back on it, I would just think, well, why didn't you just say, who cares, you know? Because that's what an artist is supposed to do. I did it with everything else, especially my subject matter. But, you know, what can you do? You can't change time. About a year later, I was in a McDonald's, and I had a meal. I went to leave, and I thought this way that I was going to go was going to be faster. Well, as it turned out, I was like walking down the hall, and I noticing that there was a person that kept walking in the same direction I was, and when I would move left, he would move in the same direction. I was like, what's this asshole doing to me, you know? And then I walked a little bit faster up about 5 feet away, and I noticed it was me. I was walking into, you know, getting closer to walking to the mirror that they had to make their store look bigger, you know, to make the restaurant.
It's what's referred to as retinal spasms, spasms in the retina, more specifically vessel spasms in the retina, that what happens is that the light becomes distorted in the retina and pulsates and distorts the light, and so it can either turn into like fluorescent white light, or it could even be like colored patterns. And when I found that out later, I thought, well, good, I'm not going insane. Because when something like that happens, especially of this sort, a visual change like this, compared to a sudden loss of vision, which I am not saying wouldn't be, you know, fun either. I mean, it has its own drama, but this had a very unique type of drama.
My experiences in music have demonstrated how therapeutic it can be. It's not the only thing, you know, that but it's something it's used as a tool, and it becomes very expressive that way. I remember there was a time when a friend of mine was going through a hard time with addiction, and he fell off the wagon, and I just got really frustrated and angry, and I went downstairs, and then I went down, and then I started wailing on the bass guitar. I put it up on overdrive, and I was like playing these serious runs and real fast and everything, and I got it off my system, and I was like also, you know, doing all other kinds of things in there that really expressed my feelings of aggression at that time. But there are times too where, you know, I like to be alone and just sort of like capture like sort of the peace that I feel, and I like doing that as well.